What happens when love dares to walk into the dazzling yet ruthless world of the elite? In this story, Toan brings Tu Diem to meet his circle of powerful CEO friends on a radiant morning. Though Diem is nervous, Toan reassures her to simply be herself. Her natural grace wins admiration and heartfelt praise. Yet, lurking behind the smiles are envious whispers and cold, judgmental stares. Still, Tuan never falters. His pride and love become her shield against the world's prejudice. Stay with us, subscribe now, and discover how courage and love triumph over envy in this captivating tale. The morning sun streamed through the tall glass windows of the Grand Hotel lobby, spilling its golden light across marble floors polished to a mirror shine. It was a morning unlike any other for Tu Diem, whose heart was racing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. She walked beside Tu Diem, her hand gently resting in his, and the warmth of his touch was both grounding and reassuring. Today, he was taking her to meet his closest circle of friends, men and women who were not just acquaintances, but prominent figures in the business world. They were CEOs, heirs, and influential tycoons whose presence alone commanded respect. The thought of standing among them both thrilled and unnerved her. As they approached the elevator that would take them to the rooftop garden where the gathering was held, Tu Diem paused and turned to her. His expression softened, as if sensing the unease flickering in her eyes. Tu Diem, he said in a calm, steady voice, you don't need to change anything about yourself. Don't try to fit into anyone else's mold. Just be who you always are, genuine, warm, and true. That's more than enough. His words, spoken so simply yet with unshakable conviction, struck her like a gentle embrace. For a moment, all the swirling doubts inside her seemed to quiet, replaced by a steady confidence that came from knowing she was valued exactly as she was. Tu Diem glanced at her reflection in the mirrored panel of the elevator doors. She wasn't adorned in extravagant jewels or dressed in a designer gown like she imagined the women of Tu Diem's world would be. Instead, she had chosen a modest but elegant cream-colored dress, soft in fabric and graceful in cut, with her hair neatly tied back in a low bun. It was simple, but it was her. She remembered how she had second-guessed her choices earlier that morning, wondering if she should have tried harder to match the luxury of the world she was about to enter. Yet Tu Diem's words dispelled that fear, reaffirming that she didn't need to wear armor of pretension or hide behind masks of sophistication. He wanted her, exactly her, to step into his world. The elevator chimed and opened, and a light breeze carried the scent of fresh lilies as they stepped into the open-air garden. Tables draped in white linen stood adorned with sparkling crystal glasses and carefully arranged bouquets, while the soft murmur of voices mixed with laughter created an atmosphere that was both refined and lively. Tu Diem's heart fluttered as she spotted the figures mingling under the sunlight. Tall men in tailored suits, women with perfectly styled hair and diamonds that glinted like tiny stars. They exuded the kind of effortless confidence that came from power and wealth. Walking forward, Tu Diem's presence was like an anchor for her. His tall frame, the assuredness in his stride, and the gentle pressure of his hand in hers spoke volumes without words. He was proud to have her by his side, and that silent declaration seemed louder than any introduction. Tu Diem took a breath, steadying herself, and let the warmth of the morning sun settle on her shoulders. She knew challenges awaited: skeptical eyes, whispered judgments, perhaps even open disapproval. But for now, in this moment, she chose to believe in what Tu Diem had told her, that being herself was enough. And with that belief, she stepped forward into the gathering, her heart both vulnerable and courageous, ready to meet the world that had shaped the man she loved. As Diem and Toan wove their way into the circle of elegantly dressed guests, conversations quieted for a heartbeat, eyes shifting toward them with curious intensity. Toan's friends, men with commanding presences and women radiant in couture dresses, turned their gazes upon the couple. For a fleeting instant, Diem felt the full weight of those stares pressing down on her, like beams of light too bright to hide from. Yet when Toan introduced her, his voice rang with pride, warm, deliberate, and steady, as though he wanted the entire gathering to know she was not merely a companion, but someone he deeply cherished. Almost immediately, the atmosphere softened. A ripple of surprise passed among the guests, followed quickly by genuine smiles and welcoming gestures. One of Toan's oldest friends, a silver-haired gentleman with eyes sharp from decades of negotiation, stepped forward to compliment Diem on her grace. "There was a refreshing air about you," he remarked, his tone tinged with admiration, something rare in a world so saturated with masks and pretense. His words earned approving nods from others, and soon Diem found herself gently pulled into conversation. At first, she responded timidly, her voice carrying the faint tremor of nerves, but as the discussions unfolded, her natural warmth began to shine through. She spoke thoughtfully, never forcing herself to impress, yet every word carried sincerity that drew people in. When someone asked about her thoughts on art, she shared a heartfelt story about visiting a small local gallery, describing the quiet power of a painting that had once moved her to tears. Her sincerity disarmed the room, and even those seasoned in boardroom battles listened with unusual attentiveness. Compliments came one after another, and Diem felt both humbled and surprised by the generosity of their words. One woman, herself a CEO of a global fashion house, leaned closer and whispered, "You are unlike anyone I have ever met in these circles. Toan is truly fortunate." The remark left Diem flushed, her heart beating faster, not from vanity, but from a dawning realization that she didn't need to pretend. Her authenticity itself was a kind of rare elegance. Still, beneath the tide of admiration, there lingered subtler currents she could not ignore. A few guests exchanged glances, their smiles polite but eyes cool, as if silently measuring her against unspoken standards. Yet when Toan's reassuring presence steadied her once again, whenever her gaze faltered, she found his eyes across the room, steady, encouraging, and filled with quiet pride. It was as if he were reminding her, wordlessly, that she belonged here not because of status or wealth, but because she was the woman he had chosen, the woman he loved. And so, with every passing moment, Diem felt her confidence grow. She laughed at witty remarks, shared thoughtful opinions, and listened intently to stories of ventures and triumphs, her genuine curiosity shining through. She realized the secret was not in outshining anyone, but simply in being herself, the woman Toan had believed in all along. In the warmth of that late morning sun, amidst glasses of champagne and hushed laughter, Tu Diem began to see that her place at Toan's side was not an intrusion into a foreign world, but the natural unfolding of a love that gave her courage to stand tall. Yet, as the morning stretched on and the laughter of conversation rose and fell like waves, Diem could not ignore the other side of the gathering. For every smile of admiration and word of praise, there were eyes that lingered too long, sharp with scrutiny, their glints edged with disdain. She felt it in the subtle tilt of a head, in the hushed whisper exchanged just out of earshot, in the way a jeweled hand toyed with a champagne flute while its owner cast her a look meant to belittle. The world of wealth and power, Diem realized, was not only gilded in brilliance, it was also threaded with envy and suspicion. A young woman in a crimson silk gown brushed past, her perfume heavy in the air, and offered a smile that was all surface, with no warmth beneath. Her gaze swept Diem from head to toe before she turned away to laugh loudly at some trivial remark, as though to make a show of superiority. Another guest, a man with a smirk that never touched his eyes, leaned toward his companion and muttered something that drew a ripple of amused, derisive chuckles. Diem's chest tightened. Though their voices were low, she did not need to hear the words to understand their meaning. In their view, she was an outsider, someone unworthy of this stage. For a brief moment, the sparkle of the morning dulled around her. She lowered her gaze to the polished stone beneath her feet, wishing she could retreat into the quiet safety of anonymity. Yet before the unease could root itself deeply, she felt a gentle pressure at her hand. Toan, who had been speaking across the table, had noticed. His fingers intertwined with hers, firm and steady, and when she lifted her eyes, he was already looking at her, with that unwavering calm that had carried her through the morning. He excused himself from the conversation and stepped closer, his presence forming a shield around her. "Ignore them," he murmured, his voice low but certain, carrying only for her ears. "Not everyone understands what matters, but I do. And I want you to remember something. I am proud of you, Diem, proud to walk with you, proud to call you mine. No one else gets to define your worth." The words, spoken with such conviction, melted the cold weight pressing against her heart. Diem breathed deeply, the tension easing from her shoulders. She realized then that strength did not come from proving herself to those who doubted her, but from knowing that the one person who mattered most stood unwaveringly by her side. When she glanced around again, the envious stares no longer pierced her. They seemed distant, powerless. What remained vivid was Tawan's steady grip, the warmth in his eyes, and the quiet reminder that she was enough. As the gathering continued, Diem carried herself differently. She no longer shrank beneath judgmental gazes, but lifted her head with quiet dignity, her presence a gentle defiance. Toan remained beside her, engaging with his peers, yet always attentive, ensuring she felt safe in a world that was both dazzling and harsh. Together, they moved through the currents of admiration and envy alike, not untouched, but unbroken. By the time the late morning sunlight began to cast softer shadows across the rooftop garden, Diem understood something profound. She did not have to conquer this world with wealth or power. Her place within it was defined by love, by the man who chose her, who stood unflinching against both admiration and scorn. And in that realization, she found not only courage, but a new kind of belonging, forged not from acceptance by others, but from the unshakable bond between her and Tawan.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Ly Tu Diem Review. Chúc các bạn hôm nay có một buổi xem phim thật là vui vẻ, hấp dẫn và thú vị. Nếu các bạn xem tập phim ngày hôm nay thấy nội dung câu chuyện ngày hôm nay hay, hấp dẫn, mới lạ thì hãy cho mình xin một nút like, một nút chia sẻ và để lại bình luận ở dưới video nhé. Đặc biệt là đừng quên hãy bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các video sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tử Diễm Review. Vậy là trong tập phim ngày hôm nay, Toàn đã dẫn Diễm ra mắt hội bạn thân là các doanh nhân của Toàn. Liệu rằng buổi gặp gỡ ngày hôm nay có thuận lợi diễn ra hay không? Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn sẽ được hé lộ vào các tập tiếp theo, sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều vì đã dành thời gian theo dõi kênh của mình. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại. Bye bye!